And good morning, Common Sense America. I'm Eden Hill. It is Thursday, and I'm wishing it was Friday. I have been a day ahead all week long. But I tell you what, I'm glad it's Thursday. It's another day that the great Lord has given us. Let us rejoice, because you know what? We got more people in the run for president of the United States. I wonder what is going to be ahead for this amazing nation of ours. And you know what? We're going to be talking a lot about that this morning with our first guest, who's going to be coming over to us in just a second. Melanie Collette, Money Talk with Melanie on 98.7 The Coast, New Jersey. She's my favorite Jersey girl. I have a lot of Jersey girls in my life. Oh, my mother first, and then Melanie Collette, of course. And, you know, we're going to be talking about a couple different things, but I have a couple announcements for you. I tested positive for common sense. Yes, common sense. You know what it's like to have common sense? Well, I think it's really important to have common sense. So let me show you something here this morning. You know, for all of those who are tuning into this amazing show, let's show us some common sense here. Yes, I tested positive. You know what? I am going to go ahead and get a couple of these shirts. So the next couple people that subscribe to Common Sense America with Eden Hill, you will be getting a free t-shirt. Yes. So hop over and subscribe to Common Sense America with Eden Hill on my YouTube channel. And we're talking about common sense. My father, who is my greatest supporter and my biggest critic when it comes to the show, who named this show, also found another t-shirt. It basically says, we need a department of common sense. Out of all the agencies that the government wants to put out there, we need a department of common sense, because you know what? There is no common sense at this point, except for here at this show and a lot of your radio shows like Melanie, Money Talk with Melanie, like WABC New York, like 990 AM, like WMAL-DC. That is common sense. And Governor Ron DeSantis, we've all heard the sound bites, announced his run officially for president of the United States yesterday. Watched his video a couple times last night, this morning. There was a couple things I liked, but for the most part, I sat back and watched a couple times, listening to all the political commentators, all my friends in the communications space. He did say this, I'm reading: common sense can no longer be an uncommon virtue, and truth must be our foundation. I agree with that. But as I was watching his campaign video, and if you haven't had a chance, you're not missing too much. I was a little disappointed in the comms team who's working with him. I'm just being honest. I've been doing it longer than most of them, to be honest with you. You know, his campaign video lacked what I've seen in him previously. It lacked more of that integrity, that salt of the earth presentation he's brought to the table. It also showed him coming from behind a stage. It's like he's behind the scenes and not a full-fledged candidate. The other thing I noticed, he has run on family, on his service to this nation. He's run on fighting the indoctrination of our education. And you know, if his communications team would have thought a little bit harder, he could be a young John F. Kennedy, but for the Republicans, right? Beautiful young family. His wife is always at the forefront. Their kids, the images of the children. They should have been in that campaign video. And you know why? Because most of the voters are mama bears, are career women, and she is both. She's also a veteran spouse. Now, I'm speaking to the veteran spouse in the military community here in Eastern North Carolina, but I'm also speaking to the nation. So I'm going to bring over Melanie Collette. We're going to talk about Tim Scott. We're going to talk about DeSantis. We're going to be talking about the National Federation of Republican Women. I have another title for them. This is a family show, but I have another title for them. So we're going to be talking all things politics this morning. This is the Conservative Women Power Hour. And then at 9:35, we'll be bringing over Victoria Churchill. South Carolina is in the news again. Pro-life and pro-guns. Go America. So as we bring over my beautiful Melanie Collette. How are you this morning?
I am amazing because I'm with the one and only amazing Eden Hill this morning. So can't beat that.
Well, thank you. My goodness, what an honor. Let me put up your screenshot here of the amazing woman that you are. Educator,
thank you, ma'am.
Community leader, host of Money Talk with Melanie, political commentator on Newsmax, and candidate.
That is correct. Candidate for Cape May County Commissioner.
There you go. So let's first talk about local politics because, all politics is local.
Indeed.
How are things going in the great state of New Jersey this morning?
Listen, things are going great, not going great in the state of New Jersey, but in the Red Kingdom, as we nickname our area of the state in Cape May County, right down in the peninsula, exit 0, if you will. Things are wonderful. And, our whole goal is to protect the Red Kingdom, the Red Fortress, the style of life that we have here in Cape May County. It's very important to protect that. We have great tourism, beaches, wineries.
Yes.
And it's just a beautiful place to be. And we have several beaches because we're in a peninsula. We have 5 or 6 beaches. We have Wildwood, Cape May, Stone Harbor, Avalon, Ocean City, Sea Isle City. I don't want Mayor Desiderio. he calls it the capital of Cape May County. Mayor Desiderio. Shout out to Mayor Desiderio, the mayor of Sea Isle City. But we have tons of beaches here, and like I said, wineries and things to do, places to see, lots of environmental areas to visit. We have one of the top 10 zoos in the country, Cape May County Zoo. Yep. Cape May County Zoo is very beautiful. We have parks and recreation. We just have a ton to do here, and it's a very unique place. And so, I think it's red for a reason because we value our way of life down here, and we'd like to keep it that way, while of course addressing problems that are common throughout the nation that we are not immune to. Here in Cape May County, we do have homelessness and all of those things that everybody else deals with all over the country. And of course, we are governed by a borderline communist in Phil Murphy. So I can't imagine why you won't sign off on any of my appointments. But anyway.
No kidding. I wonder why.
I heard you call me a communist, ma'am. But but also, like in his last debate with Jack Ciattarelli, I heard him say that I was still a slave. So can we be even? He was legit. Like, black people are still slaves. But anyway, things are great in Cape May County. I plan to keep it that way. If the voters should choose me to be their next commissioner, I plan to help the rest of the commissioner board keep it that way.
Talk to me about some of your policies that you'd be focusing on. You said homelessness, obviously. You do live in a communist state in a lot of aspects. And, I love Jersey, but it is, especially with Phil Murphy. I get that. So, and I live in somewhat of a communist state because I have Cooper who doesn't know what the heck he's doing. So, living in those states, but there are red pockets like Cape May. There are red pockets like here in Eastern North Carolina. So what kind of policies would you implement getting around, the communist authoritarian mentality rule?
It is very difficult. And FYI, I also work for legislators. I'm a community engagement director. I left teaching to be a community engagement director for my legislators here in Legislative District 1. So, the policies that we stand for are very clear. One is to make sure one of the things that goes on in New Jersey is that because we are a tourist destination,
Mhm.
we get a lot of tourism tax dollars. And because our governor is a communist, they believe in redistributing wealth. They take our millions of dollars that we send to Trenton and then give it to other less productive, less money making, less fiscally responsible areas of the state, which we completely resent. So
What part of the states would that include? Highlight some for me, because I know Trenton's bad. I know Trenton's awful.
Trenton, Newark, Patterson,
So that part,
any of those red areas, they will redistribute our wealth to, and then they also have these formulas to cut funding for schools, and they really think they're so uh, racist that they think that only white people live in Cape May County, and that they can. I'm serious.
wow.
And that they can cut, this is, I mean, really, so that they can cut funding in our schools, because this is my theory, just my own personal theory. I'm speaking for myself, not for any legislator or anything like that. I want to have
Right.
that caveat.
Right.
However, one of the schools that that Trenton cut funding from is a predominantly Black and brown school, and I mean like a nearly 50% cut in their budget. But
Mhm.
they assume because it's Cape May County that there's no Black and brown people here.
Yeah.
I imagine,
Yeah.
because they are the party of funding Black and brown schools, Black and brown, what they view as Black and brown
Right.
initiatives,
Right. Right.
and yet they cut all this funding that's going to very negatively affect, um, students who are Black and brown. So one of the things that we need to do is attack that formula,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure. We need to get more of our tax dollars down here. Homelessness is an issue, but it's more of a mental health issue. I'm sure you've heard people say that.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah.
our legislators and our mayors, all work very hard to get to give services to these people, to get them connected with services. But many of them, particularly in the warm months, because it's so nice down here,
Right.
don't want to go somewhere else. And after at first I didn't understand it, but after thinking about it a few times,
Yep.
like, think about it.
Yeah.
If you have the stress of bills and you enjoy the outdoors,
Why wouldn't you be there?
why wouldn't you?
Yeah. Yeah. It makes
Right?
a lot of sense.
And I was actually at the gym this morning. I go to Planet Fitness, and it's like I do the classic $10 a month membership. And I thought to myself, you could for $10 a month, you could come in here and take a shower every day. Right?
That's a very good point. That's a really good point.
You
Yeah.
know? And
Yeah.
then, we have food pantries, and we have
Yes.
all kinds
Yes.
of services
Yes.
here in Cape May County. And there are people who do outreach. Like, we have these wooded areas. The thing that's different about where I live is that um, because we have these wooded environmental areas, a lot
Yeah.
of people don't see our homelessness is semi-invisible
Okay.
unless they kind of come out into the active shopping areas and
Gotcha.
stuff, and
Gotcha.
panhandle and things like that.
Right.
Um, but yeah, so you don't see a lot of it
Yeah.
until you see them at the different places where there are resources.
Yes.
But it is a big problem around here. But a lot of it is, like I said, a lot of it is because we have so many protected areas and wetlands and things like that. There's
Right.
lots of places for people to live off the grid that they're not allowed to. Now, the problem with that is that many times they may start fires that are in danger to neighboring homes.
Right. Warm
There's
when it's cold.
Sure, exactly, sanitary concerns,
Yes.
things like that, and a lot of times it's other people's property that
Right.
they're on, and you're just
Right.
not allowed to do that. And
Right.
so, legislators, commissioners, like what I'm running for, and the municipalities, really have a complex issue on their hands with
Yeah.
trying to get people to get the help that they need. Some people just don't want it.
Well, I have a
And
question for you. So you're a part of, I assume you're a part of the Republican Women's Clubs there. You are
I am.
engaged with the National Federation of Republican Women for that area. That group here in North Carolina and around the nation I've seen, they like to take pictures with famous people, but I don't necessarily see them take pictures with homeless and helping the homeless. And
Listen,
so I do want to go down that path for a second. I want your recommendation. I want your thoughts on the state of New Jersey. And I can tell you the state of North Carolina, there's so many people hurting, our veterans, our homeless veterans. I'll just tap into those for a hot second. And all I see is them taking pictures with famous people, but not doing a thing. I'm choosing my words very carefully this morning, but I have a different name for them, and I'll tell you that offline. But
nice. Okay, I'll say this full
yeah,
disclosure, a
yeah,
couple of disclosures. So, I'm formerly vice chair of the New Jersey Federation of Republican Women.
former,
And as you know, I was active in the federal, New Jersey
yes, yeah,
National Federation of
yeah,
Republican Women, and I'm speaking in a couple of weeks at our annual meeting,
uh-huh,
the New Jersey Federation of Republican Women annual meeting. So I need to say all that.
yeah,
But that being said,
yeah,
I do think that we could do a better job as clubs. I mean, we donate money, and donating money is not a small thing because people
right,
obviously need resources.
yeah,
But let's just be honest, time is more valuable,
yes, it is. Yes,
right?
it is.
And being instrumental in supporting and making policies that are going to help people
Yeah,
who are less fortunate. And the hill I will die on is that they are Republican policies,
yes,
that are good for everyone. And I don't believe that we do enough as an organization to um to be on Newsmax and Fox
yeah,
News and
yeah,
podcasts
yes,
representing the Federation of Republican Women as a voice. We have many members and we've been around for years.
yeah,
I saw a report on Fox News maybe 2 years ago or so
mhm,
where they talked about how there was no real Republican voice for women, and I tweeted them, and I was like, the Federation of Republican Women's been around since like 1960, but that's our fault.
yeah, it is. You're right.
That's our fault. Like, if they're not calling, if no one from the press is calling the National Federation of Republican Women to
Yeah,
ask
yeah,
what our perspective is,
yeah,
what our policy is, if
hmm,
we're not making statements and doing press releases
yep,
saying this is our position
yep,
on this very important matter,
yep.
we're not making ourselves relevant.
No,
And like you're
no,
right, the taking of the pictures is fun. That's a good time.
doesn't
But
show me it doesn't show me anything. I get there. I was on their email list because I was a part of it, and then I let my membership expire, and I kept getting these emails. Your membership has expired. You are no longer. It was like these almost threatening emails, and I'm sitting here thinking, don't you have anything better to do? Clearly, you don't. Clearly, you don't. And I'm just like, I was just like, I sat there and thought about it. And then a friend of mine who's a radio producer called me. She's like, I have some other information for you. And then she started talking about National Federation of Republican Women. And I said, you got the name wrong. You got the name wrong.
I'll bet you a year's salary I know who that friend is. I had a very similar conversation recently
Oh,
with
really?
with a mutual friend of ours. Yes.
I bet it was. I bet it was.
Oh yeah, a producer friend, in fact.
Yes, of course, of course. And if she's watching later, she'll know.
Yes, she
Um,
definitely will. Matter of fact, I owe her a call back. We're playing phone tag.
oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
But let's talk about that, and let's head into the presidential piece, because these groups, whether they are amazing groups, small groups here in Eastern North Carolina, or whether they are national groups that are just doing pictures, or whether they are in the middle saying we are struggling with X, Y, and Z, the social justice issues that are really affecting our culture and the discourse of our culture. So let's talk about, okay, we got Tim Scott, Asa Hutchinson, President Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley. Okay, let's go through the top list. And what are your thoughts you don't have to tell me who you're going to get behind. I
Well, of course,
Sure, if you want to.
as a member of the GOP,
Yeah.
I'm not permitted to say that until the primary is
You're not.
over.
Oh, okay. Got it. Got
You
it.
know, I mean,
Mhm.
it's no law or anything, but it's kind of a rule.
Oh,
So, as I'm sure you're aware,
oh
um,
yeah, and I love breaking rules. Sorry.
me break a rule? No way. Mm-mm.
Let's throw that thought. But
But
go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
will
I wanna hear.
say,
Yeah.
I'll say this,
Yeah.
that when Tim Scott announced I changed my profile picture to a picture of us coincidentally at a National Federation of Republican Women event,
Really?
uh, I temporarily changed my profile picture on Facebook to a picture of us together.
What kind of responses did you get?
Lots of great responses.
Okay.
There were people who were like, one dude that I went to high school with was like, now I'm excited. And I was like, so am I. And people, a friend of mine texted me a screenshot of his announcement and said, "Are you ready to be first lady?" So because my friend out in Ohio knows that I am a longtime fan of
Mhm.
Tim Scott,
Okay.
mostly because he's been very proactive and an advocate for school choice. And even though I was a public school teacher,
Yeah.
I actually I think because I was a public school teacher, I was a big fan of school choice, and because I also worked in a private school for 14 years, and I thought it was ridiculous
Mhm.
that students have to pay $30,000 a year to get a decent education.
Yeah.
No shade on private schools at all. They do great work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but if you can't afford that, you should be able to get a quality education.
Exactly.
So I think
Exactly.
school choice is very important. Um, and he's always been an advocate for that. I've been to a couple of his events that he had on school choice. So I've always been a fan.
Okay.
And lots of my, kind of people in my inner circle have known that. Hence the text message that said, "Are you ready to be first lady?" Because
He's
um,
not married.
he is not married.
And no kids. And that came
Mhm.
up in one of the interviews I was listening to. I'm not sure which station it was. I can't remember now. But it was almost as like, is that going to be an issue? Because he doesn't have kids and he's not married. And I sat there and thought, well, I ran and I didn't have kids. They wanted to make it an issue, but I brought my god kids in and they were all lined up.
Well, I am also not married and also do not have kids.
Right.
But
Right.
I have lots of former students who adore me.
It doesn't need to be an issue. That's my point, right?
Listen, it's not an issue. I went to a National Day of Prayer once, and years ago, at the National Monument, and it was like a rally, a prayer rally, and a person came up to me and prayed with me, and one of the poignant things that he said, didn't know me, complete stranger, said, "You don't have any kids, but you're a mother to many."
That's
I was so
beautiful.
touched.
Oh, I bet you
He
were.
he said that in the prayer.
Yeah.
It was just random. He just came up to me and said, "Do you mind if I pray for you?"
Right. Right.
And
Right.
that's what he said in the prayer.
So let me ask you this. So let's go back to Scott for a hot second. You said
Sure.
all these people were messaging you privately and publicly, but they said they're so excited. So what are they excited about? Is it policy? Is it he is a black senator from South Carolina? Is it the fact that he has had this amazing record in the United States Senate? What is it that's really getting them fired up? I want to know that aspect of it.
I think it's all of it.
All of the above.
I think it's all of it. And is a personification of the American dream. And as he says, his life disproves their lives. He
Yeah.
believes in patriotism over pity. I wrote down a bunch of things that he said
Yeah.
in his speech.
Yeah.
So and that was one of the things that he said. And
Yeah.
I thought he is what Barack Obama should have been.
I've heard people say that. I was wondering if you would bring that up.
He's what Barack Obama should have been. And I honestly believe that he could bring the country together because of his attitude and his faith in God.
Yeah. Okay. I want to
Because
hear that.
as
I wanna
another good friend of mine,
hear.
Lonnie Poindexter,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
says that you plus Jesus is the majority.
Yep. Yep. No, I agree with the faith in God piece, which is a huge piece. That's very important to me. I want to talk about another aspect. So, say he doesn't get the nomination. Do you think he would be a great vice president?
Oh, sure. And well, okay, I don't want to. I'm not going to do that. But I think for Mr.
I don't know what you're going to do, but okay.
I was gonna do some inside baseball strategic kind of talk,
Oh, we can
but
do
I
that
don't.
offline. We can do that offline.
Yeah, we'll do that offline.
Yeah.
But yes, I think he would make a phenomenal vice
Mhm.
president.
Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
let's talk about, I want to talk about DeSantis and his video that came out yesterday. Obviously, it was all over the news. It was a bad launch all around, et cetera, from ABC to, Fox, all of them were reporting on it. That's, that's it. That is, it is
I
what
was
it is.
attending a fundraiser during the launch. And when I got, and somebody, I guess there were reports or tweets or whatever, and people at the fundraiser were like,
What the heck?
his launch is not going well. And I'm like, no.
Nope, it did
So,
not.
and I'll tell you, when I heard that he was doing it on Spaces, as a tech person,
You wondered if it was going to implode, right?
I did. I did because as some of you or people who follow me know, I used to teach in addition to financial literacy, computer applications. And I mean, I'm no Elon Musk, but I was concerned.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned, and I didn't bring this up before you hopped on, but I looked at yesterday, the New York Post ran an article about his campaign stuff. And I've heard rumors for a couple months now because people knew I was leaning in towards a Ron DeSantis kind of a run. But I haven't formally announced who I'm going to vote for. Maybe Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for all we know.
Hey,
But at the end of
listen.
I really do like him. But obviously, my former boss is running, and I am very loyal. When they take care of their staff, I am going to be loyal.
Absolutely. I'm the same way.
So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I looked at the staff that DeSantis is surrounding himself with, and I see a lot of rhinos. And it's concerning to me because he branded himself on so many different levels as a conservative for the great state of Florida, freedom, Florida, freedom, Florida. And but then I look around and see all the names listed, with the exception of one ex-Trump staffer. And I messaged a former Trump staffer yesterday, and they said, well, there's no conservatives left because they're all working for Trump. And
I was going to say that. That's what I was about to say.
so
I said, I wonder if he didn't have a choice because they're all working for Trump. I was going to say that.
but are we that kind of a country that only have a few conservatives left? I mean,
Nobody called me. Nobody
Yeah.
called me. I'm in communications.
Yeah, exactly.
I would have worked. Listen. I mean, I love my legislators. Don't get me wrong, but I am always open to other opportunities.
Well, there you go. There's the answer right there. Another great conservative. Two conservative voices. You guys didn't call us.
My phone did not ring, and y'all know where I am.
But I seriously look at this article, and it's very concerning to me. It's very concerning. But Megyn Kelly, I guess, was quoted as saying yesterday he doesn't have a chance. He really doesn't have a chance. So I'm hearing a lot of different perspectives on his his announcement yesterday. And you heard me say, when he won his election for governor, New York posted an amazing piece on the future and a beautiful picture of his family. Family is everything to me.
I remember that. A matter of fact, I believe I posted that cover.
That family is everything.
Mm-hmm.
And he was lacking in that campaign video when it came to not featuring his wife, who has been his greatest asset, and his children, the future of the next generation. He talks about the next generation. He talks about education. He talks about protecting. He does all of those things, but yet, where is your family? We are voting for your family, just like John F. Kennedy got voted for his family, as well as his policy, as well as his faith. So call me old fashioned, but that kitchen table conversation in every home is focused on what is ahead for that family.
Yep. And The other disappointing thing about the launch was, listen. Sometimes just because it's old school doesn't mean it doesn't still work.
Right. Exactly.
And as a techie person, like I love innovation and doing new things and new technology, right? But I don't understand why he couldn't have done both. That's the
Right.
part that I didn't get.
Right.
Because you could have totally done spaces
Hmm.
and done video at the same time.
Well, I kind of wonder if there isn't more Gen Zers on his team that are just thinking in that direction. And I was watching a comedian a girlfriend sent to me, and it was talking about how the Gen Zers don't know how to get from A to Z without their GPSs. And, they may try and save the world, but you know what? We're going to save it back because they don't know how to get there.
Yep, I saw that too. And that is true.
And
That's true. It is it's disheartening. It's
yeah.
frustrating. Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's go back to positive application, life-changing ways of this conservative power hour with you. And then I have Victoria Churchill coming up next.
Nice.
But we as conservative women, we have a lot of work that's ahead of us, and it can be done. And it can be done. So, what is your message to conservative women out there, young, who are just getting involved, or those who've been there like us in it for a long time and get beaten down by what's around us and what's going on? What are some words of wisdom to keep people hope, keeping their cheer up, keep your head up, keep your chin up, don't
You
give up in the
should
fight?
listen, particularly if you have faith in God, which you should. If you don't,
Yeah.
if you don't believe me, if you don't believe me, when you're in trouble, call on the name of Jesus. I tell people that all the time.
Amen. Amen.
People
Yeah.
are like, "Why do you believe?" I'm like, because when I am in trouble, I call on Jesus, and He is there.
Yes.
That's why I'm a believer.
Yes.
And it works for anybody and everybody. So that is the number one thing that
Mhm.
I would tell people. If you do not have faith in Jesus, if you've not given your life to Jesus, if you have not read a Bible,
Yes.
that's the first thing that you need to do.
Yes.
Because when times get hard, and they will, that's what you need to understand and rely on.
Yes.
That's your provider, that the Lord is who takes care of you. People ask, how are you so brave? How do you talk? And it's like, it's not that, but I just know who takes care of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all.
The spirit of God that is within you. He will never leave us. He will never forsake us.
That's exactly right. So that's the number one thing. And the other thing is, start small. Don't be
Mm,
afraid to get on the ground and roll your sleeves up. You're
yes.
not going to start by being president of a club. You're going
Yes.
to start by making phone calls. You're going to start by knocking doors. You're going
Yes.
to start by volunteering,
Yes.
and getting in the trenches
Yes.
and doing that. And that's how you learn. First of all, you learn about the people, the
Hmm.
voters, how
Yeah.
they think, how to communicate with them.
Right.
And that is very important in understanding where people are, to get a sense of the people that you're trying to, and here's a good word to nail down and take a hold of, the people you're trying to serve.
Hmm.
Leadership is service.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Leadership is service. So I think those are the really important things that you need to remember.
And also remember this: communications isn't just through a phone. It
That's
is,
right.
it's interfacing, it's interacting with,
Mhm.
for you, your constituents, for me, this audience, those in our community, those who see my husband's shirt that says we need a Department of Common Sense at Lowe's and starts laughing and says, I want one too. It is,
Nice.
it is interfacing. It is being a part of, not just sitting back and watching and on the phone.
That's exactly. Remember, no matter how high up you get, so to speak, for
Yeah.
lack of a better expression, you're never hovering. You put your pants on one leg at a time,
Yep.
like everyone else. You are not that special. Don't believe the hype. It
Right.
is nice to get compliments and people to admire that. Like all of that is. I'm not gonna act like all of that is not nice. It is, but just don't forget.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget that you are just a person, fallible, not perfect. Humility is extremely important.
humility, foundations of truth, and a dose of common sense to get you through the day with your Bible first thing in the morning.
That's right.
Oh,
Amen. Amen.
and Zabar's coffee. I have to throw that one in there.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I haven't even had my coffee yet because I was running late as usual.
Oh
And
my God.
so the coffee, but believe me, as soon as we log off, I'm going to be pouring a cup.
I'll let you go get that cup of coffee right now. I'll tell you what, for such a time as this, Melanie Collette,
Thank you for having me, ma'am.
Former educator and now a candidate. Kate May has a great gift in you. So thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you, ma'am. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
And for all of those who are tuning in, this is Common Sense America. I'm Eden Hill. You are joining Thursday's edition of the Conservative Women Power Hour. And, you know, we did talk a lot about different groups, different politics, different campaigns, and that could be the future Mrs. Scott. You never know. And who knows, maybe she'll get a call from the DeSantis campaign saying, hey, we need some more conservatives here because there's too many rhinos on our team. But you never know. So on that note, I have American Liberty News, one of our favorites who comes to the show about once a month. I think we're going to up it now because we have a lot happening this summer and headed into the fall. I tell you what, this woman is a fearless leader. I love her convictions. I love her conversations. And I love when she calls our house because my husband gets on the phone with her too and asks her two-way questions left and right. So anyway, we have this morning Victoria Churchill. She is the writer, the editor at American Liberty News, and also the Republican Standard, chairman of the YRs. And she is a lover of freedom and firearms, and also, of course, her husband. And she has written an article, South Carolina Legislature advances pro-gun and pro-life bills. I wish North Carolina would. Okay, here we go. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great, Eden. How are you?
Oh, we're good. Just having a blast for this Conservative Women Hour, Power Hour. And it was great to have Melanie Collette over here. I think she's going to marry Tim Scott if it were between us. So anyway, I know we talked for about an hour yesterday, just babbling about everything, talking about everything. My husband took half of that time because he wants to hear about what is happening with our gun rights. So let's go right to that right now, because he got a call the other day and he was told he has to fill out forms, fingerprints, blah, blah, blah. Can you break that down for Eastern North Carolina and help us as gun owners to understand what the Biden administration is now doing to our gun rights?
Yeah, so we are just under a week away now from the time when this grace period for this new ATF rule is going to end. So what originally happened was back in late January, the ATF came out with this rule saying that anybody that has a stabilizing device, also known as a brace, a pistol brace on an SBR short-barreled rifle, anything with a barrel under 16 inches, needs to go and now register that item as a NFA item under the National Firearms Act. So what is interesting is that people think that this is actually just going into practice at the end of next week. That's actually incorrect. It's actually already enacted because the Biden, as you call it, the Biden, yes, the Biden administration. Yes. Yeah. The Biden administration has gone and actually already implemented this. But what has been happening for what was 120 days from the day that this rule was brought in, made sure that, people had this time to come into compliance with the policy. Now, it's not a law, it's a executive branch rule that was made. And that's interesting because ATF Director Stephen Dettelbach, who was confirmed last year, has gone and testified before Congress on this issue and many others. And even during his confirmation hearing, he's like, I'm just here to carry out the laws and make sure that my agents carry out the laws that are given to me by Congress. We're not here to make laws ourselves. And even though this is not a law, this rule could affect tens of millions of Americans. The exact number is not known because people aren't going around and telling the government what kinds of firearms they have. But FBI projections say that there is between 10 and 30 million of these braces or these firearms with these braces around. Gun groups have been using the number of close to 40 million. So the impact of this is going to affect quite a significant number of Americans. And again, those estimates vary because nobody really
Right.
knows exactly who has them. And
Yeah,
so, you know,
yeah.
that's
Well,
the
we were
question that
just
comes
talking
down
about,
to enforcement is that how are you going to go after these people? Do people actually have to register them? If you want to be by the book, yes, but are they going to find out about it? That's kind of the thing, is that realistically, the people that are going to get in trouble for having these are going to be people that want to comply with the law, right? Like theoretically, what could happen is, you know, the ATF comes knocking at your door and says, hey, you know, in Virginia here, we have a limit of you can't buy more than one pistol per month. We see that you've bought 24 pistols over the past 2 years. Do you want to show them all to us? And people thinking, hey, you know, I'm going to be in compliance. I'm a law abiding gun owner. I know what I'm doing. They're going to say, yeah, come on in, check out my gun safe. You know, these ATF agents are probably going to show up without a warrant and just basically see who bites. And if they open up that gun safe and you have something in there that would be classed under this as an unregistered NFA item, that's where you could get into trouble. But what it's not going to do, and it's not going to impact criminals, because say you commit an armed robbery with one of these in court, realistically what's going to happen is that charge is going to be pled down. So you're going to be charged with armed grand larceny, robbery, and you're going to have done that with one of these weapons. That charge is realistically not going to even go through, and you're still going to have the robbery charge. And so criminals are still going to keep criminals aren't going to go around and register their guns. We know that this doesn't happen, right? Like a lot of these crimes that are committed with unregistered firearms.
Right.
So that's one. And again, who's going to get in trouble? It's the common man that is just going to make a simple mistake. And that's what is troubling to me, is that this just really seems like another instance of big government going after the common man. The new tax stamp that they have been, that anybody that wants to come into compliance with this law, this tax stamp is now $200 per item. And if you have a couple of these, it's going to count up pretty quick. So to me, it just really means that the government is just trying to get a little bit more of your money, and just come in and say, hey, this is something that you shouldn't have, that you were able to have 2 or 3 months ago, no problem. And we saw this with the bump stock ban. An estimated maybe like 1% of bump stocks were actually turned in. A bunch of them are probably still around. Right. And again, people aren't, unless they're stupid, they're not going around and waving them around the internet on TikTok and Instagram and telling people what they have, but they're still out there because these estimates do exist. And I think, even though the ranges are large, we can see that these ATF rules are really ineffective.
So you said a couple of things: big government, and you said criminals. And I'm going to put those together. Big government is criminal, bottom line, because they are taking more of our money because they're broke. They're absolutely broke. There's no money left. And we, the American people, have to sit here and watch this, especially those who have common sense saying, I tested for common sense, but what am I supposed to do with that now? So, I could go all day with this. And you and I have wonderful conversations. We go back and forth. For this audience that's tuning in, when she calls me or I call her and it's the right number, that happened yesterday too. We talk for about an hour at a time, and we talk all things politics, and we talk about what's next. So let's talk about what's next. We see great things happening in the great state of South Carolina. You did another article, and I want to talk about that really quickly. You did an article yesterday. South Carolina Legislature advances pro-gun and pro-life bills. Talk to me about this amazing southern state taking this active role. What's happening there, and why is it happening there and not happening here in North Carolina, Virginia? Is it the leadership, or is it the old guard? Just talk to me, break it down for me, help me understand that.
So, honestly, I think it's a little bit of both. So in
Okay.
South Carolina, with both the pro-gun, the constitutional carry bill that is currently being advanced through the legislature, as well as the pro-life bill, the 6-week, what would basically be a post 6-week, post heartbeat detection abortion
Mhm.
ban. The
Mhm.
governor has come out, Governor McMaster has come out and
Yep.
said that he supports both of these pieces of legislation. And I think that's key. In North Carolina, we do still have a Democrat governor. We do still have one of my favorites. I know he's not necessarily one of your favorites, but Mark Robinson is running for governor of
I have to say
your
this.
state.
He still has to prove himself to me.
Okay.
I see a man of faith, which is very important, first and foremost.
Mhm.
I see a man of faith who wants to do great public policy for this state. But I also see a man that I think needs to come down a peg. What I see is someone who is becoming more and more unrelatable to his constituency. That's concerning to me. So he needs to become more relatable to his constituency to get my vote. That's where I'm at on that. And maybe he can prove that to me. I would like to see that. But when I saw him at CPAC, you know me, I'm 5'2". And I was running for state house, and I went over and approached him. It was just like, I don't have time to talk to you, you little person. Get out of my way. His Secret Service people were just kind of like, what the heck do we do with this little person? She's fluttering around. And they couldn't control me. I like that. But my point saying that is I'm seeing more and more that he's out there, but come on, relate to your constituency. Don't get too far out of the realm. And we need a little bit more dose of humility there. And I think he's becoming too big and too fast, and he's losing what he actually stood for. That's my concern.
That's very well noted. I do think he has a larger than life personality. Personally, I think that's what attracts him to, or attracts a lot of people to him. But, Mark Robinson, I think, if he was to prevail in your home state of North Carolina, I think he would be pushing for this policy. Absolutely. I mean, he's come out on, gun rights have been kind of his number one catalyst for really his entire pursuit of politics. But, we've also seen the states that have signed constitutional carry into law this year, both Nebraska and Florida. So these were number 26 and 27. The governors of both of those states, in one hand, we have DeSantis. He came out before the session even started with this new cadre of legislatures that he's having this year that were elected last year. He came out with House Speaker Paul Renner and he said, hey, we're going to get this done this year. And so I think having the governor's backing in that situation was very crucial. And then in Nebraska, we also have the new governor who has now appointed the old governor to the Senate, but the new governor, he ran, he was elected. And this was one of the things that he talked about on the campaign trail. He was supported by the NRA. He was supported by Nebraska gun owners. And he said, hey, if we get in, we're going to get this done. This was something that was introduced in the legislature for at least the 2 or 3 previous sessions. And, the legislature wasn't able to get that over the line. The previous governor had indicated that he would support it, but I think kind of having that be a promise that was made to the people on the campaign trail, I think that was something that was able to hold both of those state legislatures accountable. And I think, again, having the backing of the governor in South Carolina is helping propel both the pro-life legislation and the pro-gun legislation forward. Because what interestingly happened in South Carolina, as I mentioned in the article, Live Action noted this in their report of the issue, was that there was actually previously a heartbeat bill passed in South Carolina, and it was struck down by the Supreme Court. Now the makeup of the Supreme Court is different. And so if that bill was to end up there again under review for the constitutionality of it, they are actually expecting potentially a different result because the makeup of the court has changed.
Yes.
This was a special session that the governor called back, and he's still pushing these big issues. And, the pro-life bill that is headed to his desk, and then the constitutional carry bill, we're just waiting. There's only a couple of days left. I believe the special session runs out at the end of this week. And, we're waiting to see what action they take on it, if any.
All right, let's talk about the rumbles of Washington, D.C. You live up there, you breathe it, you breathe in the toxic air. So let's talk about our precious nation's capital. How can we save it? But what are the rumblings that you're hearing from the Hill, knowing that they are taking their Memorial Day holiday, leaving the money here in the background. Things are changing. All the years of being up there, it was all this drama. What kind of sound bites can we get? How can we get the left and the right to bite at each other? And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, it's all fine and dandy, but until you really start messing with the American people's pockets and what is ahead for them. So what are what rumblings do you have from the Hill that you could share with us this morning?
Well, in terms of gun rights, the Congress is looking at the Congressional Review Act on this ATF policy.
Right.
So what the Congressional Review Act is means that Congress can actually go out and, ideally, if both chambers were made up of Republicans that were strong Second Amendment supporters, what could ideally happen is the Congress could send a note to the president. And if the president signed it, this actually could be nullified. So House Republicans are looking to pass it, saying that this ATF rulemaking is kind of beyond their purview, and that falls into borderline legislating, which is what Congress is there to do. Now, in the Senate, it would probably get nowhere, and there's no way Biden would sign it because he tweeted this week that he wants to ban assault weapons. So the most that this Congressional Review Act vote would entail on this ATF ruling is that it would basically just be a slap on the wrist, signifying that, House Republicans stand with gun owners. But really, unfortunately, at least in this situation, it wouldn't get beyond that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's talk about, I want to talk about fashion real quick. Yeah. We only have like 3 minutes left. Fashion. I want to go to fashion. So John Fetterman's outfit at his most recent, press conference. Do we need to take up a collection for him to get a suit, to be able to afford a suit? Or do you think he's setting a fashion trend with his Target shorts and wanting, other members of the Senate, the prestigious Senate chamber, are going to start to follow suit? Did I stump you there? I just had to throw it out there. I didn't prep you on that one, but I'm just thinking, I just want your honest opinion on that one. And you're speaking for you, not American Liberty News. What are your thoughts on that?
No, of course. Well, I think post-pandemic, we have seen a lot of workplaces adopt a more relaxed dress code. And, potentially, potentially it might be applying on Capitol Hill, but I do think that he is taking it a little bit too far. Women on the Hill have come out year after year and said that they don't want to, they want to be allowed to be on the floor without having their shoulders covered. I think that is personally a fine loosening of the dress code, but I think having your knees out in short shorts like he's got, looking like he's about to go mow the lawn, I think that's taking it one step too far. So, I'm pro women's shoulders, but I'm against John Fetterman's knees.
And I am against pantyhose, because when I was on the Hill and Mary Bono was still a congressman, we would, I remember us talking about that. We got rid of the pantyhose in the late 1990s and said, sayonara. I don't care if they're part of the dress code, no more. Women's lib right there with pantyhose. There you go. Anyway, somebody's laughing at the comment I just made. Well, that's great. I'm glad we're bringing some humor to your Thursday Conservative Women Power Hour. So on that note, we have just a few minutes left, and then I got to wrap because I got some other amazing things coming down the pike that you will be a part of. But first and foremost, I also want to thank you for the amazing articles that you have been writing on our military spouses. And just about a week ago, we were celebrating National Military Spouse Day. And you did a phenomenal article that just came out yesterday in American Liberty News, talking about a veteran spouse who is giving back, who is full of patriotism, giving back to our military spouses. Can you speak a little bit to that article, please?
Yeah, so in the Republican Standard, which is one of the publications that I write for, we were able to feature the great work of Jennifer London, a longtime friend of you and a newer friend to me, but I got a chance to interview her at CPAC when she was there, just, making connections, doing some interviews. And she was recently up in Fort Belvoir in Virginia, which is just down the road from me. And she was able to, really inspire some military spouses. She spoke at the USO at Fort Belvoir. And, that was a great event. And she's really trying to take her husband's message and legacy of leadership. Her husband, Jack London, was the former chairman of CACI, and they co-wrote a book before his death, really about everything that he had learned, both in his military time and, in leadership and in building up one of these multinational defense conglomerates, which is not an easy task. The thing that I really love to see about Jennifer London is that she always goes back and she gives back to the military community. She sits on the board of a number of charities benefiting the military community, and she can really connect to these women because, she's a former veteran spouse herself, just like you are. So, great woman. Love seeing her up here. And, love seeing her inspire. Also, she does a lot of speaking engagements on college campuses. So she's really hitting a lot of different audiences. And I really think she has a broad appeal as well.
Well, thank you so much, Victoria Churchill. We have just a second left, so I'm going to leave it on this note. Victoria Churchill, writer-editor for American Liberty News, the Republican Standard, chairman of the YRs. And that is that Northern Virginia?
For Arlington and Falls Church, yes.
Arlington and Falls Church.
And then I'm running right now to be the national committee woman for the YRs for the whole state of Virginia. So our convention's coming up in just a couple weeks. Very excited for that. We'll be down in Richmond, really strengthening the connections that our YR chapters have across the state. And that should always be a great event. I was able to go. It's a convention that happens every 2 years. So 2 years ago, I just kind of started getting re-involved in politics here in Virginia after, living in Iowa and working for former President Trump on his campaign. So, it's really been an interesting 2 years, but I've gotten a lot more involved and looking forward to serving in this new capacity when we're all running unopposed, and in our bylaws, you actually can't have a contested convention on the floor. So, we're all pretty much the next leadership. So that's nice knowing that going into it. And running with a great group, and the past board has done an amazing job. They're a part of Youngkin's Clean Sweep here in Virginia with Youngkin and Miaras and Winsome Sears. So we've got a lot that we owe them for all their efforts, and looking forward to making Virginia better. And this year we have our state house elections, so we're watching those with both the state house and the state senate. The state house is now a very slim Republican majority. The state senate, we need to pick up a couple of votes to make sure that we can get rid of all the bad Northam policies that we have holding over, and hopefully implement some good policies like, I've covered in some of our neighboring states and other states across the country that are having these great policies implemented. Hopefully Virginia's next down the line, but we do have a little bit of work to do at the grassroots level first.
Well, Victoria Churchill, I'm so thankful that you came to Common Sense America. You, my friend, have tested positive for common sense. So I'll be sending you a t-shirt, and it'll be military green. So go Army right there too. So anyway, have a wonderful weekend. Happy Memorial Day. Thank you for all that you do with American Liberty News, and I will see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Great to see you as always.
Have a fabulous day. Bye. And for all of those who are tuning in, this is Common Sense America. I tell you what, we have some great people on this show, and Victoria Churchill is one of them. If you have not done so, make sure you follow her on Twitter. And you know what? She has many more great articles coming out on American Liberty News. Until then, be strong, be courageous, put on that full armor of God. You got work to do, people. I'll see you guys later. Have a great day.